Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. I was getting some questions about slash damage, so I'm gonna show you every slash damage build, period. Okay? So, we're gonna pull up the wiki every single time and see the equations that we're playing with. Status effects. The status effects of slash damage is bleed. It applies a dot effect after 1 second delay, dealing a tick of damage each second for 6 seconds. Each tick deals true damage equal to base damage times 1 plus base damage bonuses times 1 plus faction damage bonuses. Well, the easiest part out of that is faction damage. We're going to be loading in some Grenier. Easy. Okay, so base damage bonuses. Base damage is literally this 75. So that's base damage. Times 1 plus base damage bonuses. What base damage bonuses are is mods that apply to the base damage exclusively. So it's going to be something that affects all physical damage and elemental damage. And there's only a couple of these. Heavy caliber, serration, and most of your arcanes. I'm going to go with primary merciless for this. So what we're going to do immediately, because we just put 2 mods in, is we're going to see how much we need them. Primary merciless at 12 stacks gives 360 damage. It's additive to this, and it's additive to this. These two together give 325. So merciless on its own gives 360. These two together give 325 for less than a 50% damage boost. We will come back to these, but for now, we're only going to be applying 1 mod per effect. So we don't want to double down on anything. Okay, so we have faction damage, base damage bonus, comes from the arcane. Base damage we can't do anything about because that's an innate characteristic of the weapon. Okay, now the slash proc, this is what we're interested in, is modded base damage, which is the equation we just messed with. So that's set times a multiplier of 0.35 or times 1 plus faction damage bonuses, which we already have on there. So we have most of this filled out just by having the arcane and faction damage on it. But I see an A off to the side. And that A is additional multipliers. So let's take a look. Additional multipliers include modded critical multiplier on critical hit and multipliers on enemy body parts. These stack multiplicatively with each other. Cool. So what this means is your crit damage when you crit is taken into account. If you don't crit, there's no crit multiplier. Well, obviously we want our slash procs as high as possible, so I'm going to see what crit is available. Vital Sense is best in slot. We also have the choice between critical chance, point strike, or critical chance from delay. Well, point strike gets me to 87.5, so that's occasionally proccing yellows. To always proccing yellows. That's not bad. Hold on, let me get rid of this. It's showing my other build. Okay, that's guaranteed yellows. I'll take it, because the first one's the big one, right? So, okay, what else do we got? Headshot multipliers, critical damage, and what boosts your critical multiplier is your tier. Can we get to oranges or red? Probably not, because we're going to be killing with slash. Because one of the mods that's available now is Galvanized Scope. And though we will get the top with 120% crit chance, unless we randomly kill something with an alpha hit, the headshot will never trigger off the dot. So food for thought, it is available. Okay, so the next thing is this is a burst weapon, and this methodology also applies to full auto and single shot. Every time we pull the trigger, it goes bop bop bop. It's a burst rifle. It's a burst rifle, right? If we put on multi-shot, it gives us 1.8 multi-shot. So every time we pull the trigger, let's say this was an even 2, it would go bop bop bop, and it would shoot twice as much. So instead of having 3 instances to proc slash, it's going to give us 6. Cool. So this doubles our damage, which is pretty cool. I like that multiplier, double damage. Okay, the next one is the ability to fire faster. So we're basically going to go down and enhance as much of this as possible. I'm going to use Prime Shred for this because I just got it. You could also use Shred or Speed Trigger or Vigilante Fervor. Whatever your best mod is. And the difference between Speed Trigger and Fervor is literally personal preference. So no issues whatsoever. If you want to do, you know what, I'll do Vigilante Fervor. But the other thing is Shred also is a multiplier because of the punch through. Yes, it makes you attack faster, fire faster, but punch through allows you to punch through enemies. So instead of the bullet going to the first enemy and stopping, I will punch through an enemy and hit the one behind it. And with 2.2, I'm going to go through a couple. So instead of hitting one enemy, I'm going to be hitting 3. So it's another multiplier, which punch through is. So what else do we got? Well, it's not very intuitive when you look at it. But I'm going to slot Galvanized Aptitude. Because the status chance is appreciated. It will allow me to proc more of these. So Impact, Puncture, Slash is innately on the weapon. But here's the big deal. This secondary stat, where it's on kill and it's a conditional, plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target for 20 seconds. Okay, so what this means is this mod scales twice. You have no bonus. All this mod does at the beginning is gives you status chance. Okay? But if you kill something, it will then give you plus 40. If you kill another thing within 20 seconds, it will go up to 2, making this bonus plus 80. Now, this bonus is then multiplied. 80% is then multiplied by the number of statuses on whatever you're shooting. So say for this, you have plus 80, you have 2 kills, and 2 stacks, and you shoot something that has impact, puncture, and slash on it. That's 80% times 3, which is what, 240? Then that number, the 240, is added to your base damage. So that newly modified damage type, or that newly modified damage bonus, is added to the amount of damage from Merciless. So if this is stacked all the way up, and it's got the 360 on it, and then you shoot this, and you proc impact, puncture, and slash on it, so say those 3 are on the enemy, it will be 240 plus 360 for 600 damage. And that will be your new base damage. Okay. So, moving on. Looking at our weapon, we do not have very high status chance. The only thing that we have that boosts the status chance is Galvanized Aptitude. And it more or less gets us to a 1 in 5 chance. But the good news is that we have Multishot. And this Multishot mod will boost us from no Multishot, 1 shot per bullet spent, and will boost us all the way up to 3 shots per bullet spent, tripling our damage. Okay. So, very worthwhile mod. Or what is it? It'll put us up to 80 plus 150. So 230. So 330. So 3.3 bullets per. So what do we got now? So every time you pull the trigger, it goes bup, bup, bup. And it sends 9 bullets downrange, which will then puncture 3 enemies, possibly a 4th. So say it's 3 enemies, it will send 9 bullets. You will have 27 instances of damage to play with. Not bad. Possibly a 4th. So what's left is we now have to take care of the slash. If you look at the weapon, our status chance is not very high. You will proc slash occasionally, but it's weighted the highest, but it's not even 50%. So what do we got to do? There's a mod called Hunter Munitions, and we're going to drop it in there. Okay. So the final thing, and it is ultimately a flex slot, I'm going to go ahead and drop that in because that's an easy yes, is if you do not have an Exilus adapter, if you do not have this slot in here, your build is done. Okay? If you have it unlocked, move that there. And then what else do you put here? It is entirely personal preference. Okay? For me, I move this here, and I slot the Riven. But you might not have a Riven. So for me, maybe a Serration. It's not going to scale that well because remember we have Merciless and Aptitude boosting the damage also. So this isn't even going to give us a 20, even 30% increase. Okay. So it wouldn't be super favorable, but you could. It would help with the low end base damage when you start the mission. Or we could increase from 3.3 to 3.9 our multi-shot, and then have a 10% chance out of those 27 chances that we send down range from the multi-shot and the triple hit burst. So you'll have, what, 2 bullets that you send down range will be oranges with a very, very small chance to proc a red. So we have some space to play with. We'll drop that there. Easy. And this is a standard slash build. Let's see how we do. The other thing that boosts slash is viral, which this guy's going to help me with. There you go. Nice and easy. Lots of slash. $6K, $7K, $8K, it's all 14. Let's see, a headshot, $105K, $160K with the headshot multiplier. So on top of everything that this weapon does, I am then boosting the slash procs with viral from the Panzer, which will then add 325%. And then Ash has a passive, which increase bleeds by 25% and lasts 50% longer. And I think the math on this works out to 87% more slash damage. So that's that. Now let's go over a weapon that is weighted. Oh, I already got it on here. Okay, so it's the exact same build as the other one. Crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, faction, base damage, Galvanized Savvy, which is the same, does the same thing as the other one. Multishot. And for this, we ended up going with Vigilante Armaments again, because it's a low multi-shot weapon. And then this weapon, which obviously you can't use anywhere else, but has a unique mod to it called Efficient Beams, which jacks the status up even more, which ends up being best in slot. This mod is a Nightwave mod. The Flux Rifle also has one, and that one's farmed from Index. So you can do this build on the Flux Rifle and kill stuff. But anyway, same build, but took advantage of a unique mod. And the space for this mod came from the fact that I don't need to put 100 munitions here. See, it's right here. Otherwise, it would be in that spot. But if you look at the distribution, the weighting, it's heavily slash weighted and a status weapon. And 50% of the time you crit. 48%, whatever. So this would be the opposite of a crit weapon. This would be a status weapon that can crit a bit, but it's not going to be giving you oranges, really. Pistols, similar thing. Galvanized Shot, which is the same as the other two. Gives you status chance and additive base damage to Merciless based on the number of statuses on something. Crit chance, crit damage, faction, fire rate. This one has multi-shot on it, which is phenomenal. And diffusion, also got another ammo mutation. And what I chose to do with this to deal with some of the issues with the weapon itself is this weapon is heavily multi-shot weighted. Like, it's got a ton of multi-shot. Is this weapon has issues with fall off. So to prevent that bonus or that degradation in performance from kicking me in the ass, I did lethal momentum. And at the beginning, the base damage is super low. So for this weapon, I just slotted Hornet Strike, even though technically it isn't. It isn't efficient. One of the things you could also do is get rid of this and slot this to increase the weight, because the weighting isn't super good on it, and this would fix that. I think it'd push it up to like 70% or something, which is perfect. So this would work also, and would work better once these get stacked up. But Hornet Strike would help at the beginning. So this would be like a more full scaling slash build. And use the viral from the Panzer. Alright, melees. Same thing. Base damage, crit chance. I went double crit damage, but you don't have to. Because of the status chance is somewhat low, and because melees have unique modding, I'm using Weeping Wounds to give status chance. We'll push this well over 100%. So every time I hit something, every time there's an instance of damage, there will be a status effect procced, and it will pull from this pool. So one of the things you could also do is slot this here to heavily weight into slash. You would lose crit damage, but it's the same thing. Base damage, crit chance, crit damage, status chance. So this would be taking the place of like the Galvanized Savvy or Galvanized Adaptation and whatnot. That would be this slot. Then you have faction, attack speed, but it's attack speed, but it would be the equivalent of fire rate. And this would be just to help guarantee the slash. But it is what it is, because we don't have to worry about like punch through here. Though there is a stat for follow through, but with very few exceptions, you can't deal with it. You just have to deal with whatever that stat is. So this would be your hyper generic, already slash weighted melee build. And if the weapon wasn't weighted, you should probably be using a weapon that's weighted slash. You can use weapons with like high dispos and rivens to pull IPS off. But that requires like a specific roll. So I would say just stick with the slash weighted weapon. But that is Every slash build ever. They're fucking identical, but that's all of them. Okay. So it's the same thing. Literally just went to the wiki, saw what the equation was, and threw that onto the weapons to boost the slash damage, and they do hella damage. But anyway, thank you all. Have a blessed day.